Sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. I think this is marked. What am I up to? 1867. Okay. So if everyone can repeat, Idam te na tapaskaya,
Idam te na tapaskaya,
na bhaktaya kadachana,
na bhaktaya kadachana,
na chashushushave vacham,
na chasushrushave vacham,
na chamam yo yasuyayati.
na chamam yo vyasuyati.
Idam te nata paskaya,
Idam te na tapaskaya,
abhaktaya kadachana,
na bhaktaya kadachana,
nachasushu save bacham,
na sushushave vacham,
nachamam yo vyasuyati.
na chamam yo vyasuyati.
Idam te nata pakskaya,
Idam te na tapaskaya,
kaya kadachana,
na bhaktaya kadachana,
nachashushu save vacham,
na chasushrushave vacham,
nachamam yo vyasuyati.
na chamam yo vyasuyati. Idam te na tapaskaya,
Idam te na tapaskaya
na bhaktaya kadachana,
na bhaktaya kadachana
na chasushrushve vacham,
na chashushruveshve vacham
na chamam yo vyasuyati.
na chamam yo prasuyati.
Idante na tapaskaya
Idam te na tapaskaya,
na bhaktaya kadachana
na bhaktaya kadachana,
na chashu shabe pachang
na chasushrushve vacham,
na cha mangjo abhisuyati.
na chamam yo vyasuyati.
Idam te na tapashkaya,
Idam
Idante na tapaskaya
na bhaktaya kadachana,
na bhaktaya kadachana
na chashu shrushave vyacham,
na
na cha
chasushrushve vacham,
na cha mam yo abhyasuyati.
na
na chamam yo vyasuyati.
abhisuyati.
Idam te na tapaskaya,
Idam te na
Idante na
tapaskaya,
tapaskaya
na bhaktaya kadachana,
na
na
bhaktaya
bhaktaya
kadachana,
kadachana
na chashushu shabevacham,
na
na chashu
chasushrushve
shabe
vacham,
pachang
na chamam yogyasuyati.
na
na cha
chamam yo
mangjo
vyasuyati.
abhisuyati.
Idam te natapaskaya,
Idam te
Idante
na
na
tapaskaya,
tapaskaya
Nabhaktaya Kadachana
Na bhaktaya kadachana.
Nacha Shusra Rusave Vatyam
Na cha shu ve vachang.
Nacha Mam Yo Yasu Yati
Chamam jo ashuyoti.
Idam.
Idam.
This.
Idang. This.
Te.
Te.
By you.
For you.
Na.
Swaha.
Never.
Never.
Atapaskaya.
Natapastaya.
To one who is not austere.
To one who is not austere.
Yeah.
Na.
Na.
Abhaktaya.
Bhaktaya.
One who is not a devotee.
To one who is not a
Not
devotee.
a devotee.
Kadachana.
Padachana.
Kadachana.
At any time.
At any time.
Anytime.
Na.
Na.
Never.
Never.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
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 Ashushras Save.
Ashushave.
To one who is not engaged in devotional service.
To one who is not engaged in devotional
Devotional service.
Vacham.
Vacha.
To be spoken.
To be spoken.
Na.
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 Never.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
So.
Mom.
Mom.
Toward.
Toward.
Me.
Me.
Yaha.
Yaha.
Anyone who.
Anyone who.
Abhyasuyati.
Suyate.
Is envious.
Is envious.
This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Quote, Srila Prabhupada. Persons who have not undergone the austerities of the religious process, who have never attempted devotional service in Krishna consciousness, who have not tended a pure devotee, and especially those who are conscious of Krishna only as a historical personality, or who are envious of the greatness of Krishna, should not be told this most confidential part of knowledge. It is, however, sometimes found that even demoniac persons who are envious of Krishna, worshiping Krishna in a different way, take to the profession of explaining Bhagavad Gita in a different way to make business. But anyone who desires actually to understand Krishna must avoid such commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. Actually, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not understandable to those who are sensuous. Even if one is not sensuous, but is strictly following the disciples enjoined in the Vedic scripture, if he is not a devotee, he also cannot understand Krishna. And even when one poses himself as a devotee of Krishna, but is not engaged in Krishna conscious activities, he also cannot understand Krishna. There are many persons who envy Krishna because he has explained in Bhagavad Gita that he is the supreme and that nothing is above him or equal to him. There are many persons who are envious of Krishna. Such persons should not be told of Bhagavad Gita, for they cannot understand. There is no possibility of faithless persons understanding Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. So without understanding Krishna from the authority of a pure devotee, one should not try to comment upon Bhagavad Gita. idam te nata paskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na chashushu save vacham na chamam yo vyasuyati. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Taleshu Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Neva Se Sasunyavadi Pastachadi Sataramo. So here we have who we should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita to. One of the offenses against the holy name is to preach this message to the faithless. So someone who is faithless, faith is the first thing we need. We can't go anywhere unless we have faith. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, his brother-in-law, I believe it was Gopinath Acharya, Gopinath, was telling Sarvabhauma that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of God, and Sarvabhauma didn't believe it. And he was, to make a long story short, they picked a verse because Lord Chaitanya was listening to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for like 7 days, sitting down like, 8 hours a day, just listening to him. Not one comment did Lord Chaitanya have. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, okay, you don't seem to be saying anything. I don't know if you're understanding anything. I've been speaking to you. Imagine speaking to somebody for 7 or 8 days and you didn't get one response, but you kept talking. And finally you realize maybe this person isn't even understanding anything I'm saying. So finally he asked if he understood it. Lord Chaitanya said, I understand the verses very well, but your explanation of them simply clouds the real meaning of the verses. So then they picked the verse, the Atma Rama verse, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained it. Then Lord Chaitanya explained it. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained it in, 12, 14, 15 ways. But then Lord Chaitanya explained it in many more ways and never touched on any of the ways that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya accepted. Then, when he heard this explanation, then he could understand that this has to be the Supreme Personality of God. Because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, not that he's just so puffed up, nobody can be greater than me, but he is very, very knowledgeable. I mean, all the sannyasis, he would teach all the sannyasis, so the Mayavadi impersonalist sannyasis, he would teach them so that they don't fall down. So he saw Lord Chaitanya as this young man, 24 years old, beautiful, handsome. He's like, got so much going for him, and he's not going to be able to make it unless he hears this stuff. So, but then when he came with these explanations, Krishna in his Sarvabhauma's heart got him to realize that this is the Supreme Lord. Then when he had faith and he accepted this is God, then Lord Chaitanya revealed his Sadbhuja form, his 6-armed form. So first you have to have faith. People say, show me God. You can't, God doesn't reveal himself just to any old idiot who wants to see him. But you have to have faith in him. If you have faith in him, then he does reveal himself to you in different ways. With Lord Chaitanya, he showed him this form, 6-armed form. So I don't know anybody who's gotten that much mercy besides Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when they come and accept Lord Chaitanya as God. But we accept Krishna, we accept Lord Chaitanya, we accept Srila Prabhupada, and because we do get some realizations, we do get some things where Krishna shows us, without a doubt, we are convinced. Now, someone else who's a demon, who's a non-believer, who's an atheist may say, oh, it's just a coincidence, say whatever they want to say. But when so many things happen like this, it's real. I have one person I know he says he's an atheist, but he does believe that when work towards something, when you believe in something, when you try to do something, that somehow or other things do happen, and he can't explain how it happens. But it's, if you believe in God, he could have to say it's God, but he won't want to admit that. But he does see there's like supernatural things happening. So this is faith. We have to have faith. Everyone has to have faith. You can practice this Krishna consciousness, and if you don't have faith, you're not going to get any realizations. It may be okay, it may be nice, it may make sense, but without faith, you're not going to get that real special mercy. So there are faithless people. There are people who know the scriptures, but they think it's just some history or just some fantasy, just like the Greek mythology. Mythology means it's a myth. It's not. It's made up. It's just fiction. So sometimes people think of Hindu mythology. You should never. It's not mythology. It's a fact. So Indian people should know this. They shouldn't accept when people say it's mythology. It's not mythology. So, but people who accept it as mythology, accept it as just made up, or accept it as some history of somebody who lived a long time ago, and they just exaggerated so many things about them, then for them, they're faithless. And what should we do? We don't try to convince them about this Krishna consciousness movement. We don't try to convince them about that Krishna is God. We don't try to tell them about how you should read this Bhagavad Gita. I mean, now that's when they're faithless. Everyone we have to approach. So there's a lot of people who don't believe in any of this, but they're not faithless. They're not demons. They're actually innocent. They just never came across it. They don't know. They're not like closed-minded. There is no God, and that's that. I mean, if somebody wants to think a certain way, just like people who want to think that this COVID-19 isn't real, that it's just all make-believe, and they don't think you have to wear masks, and they think the whole thing is just a big exaggeration. It's a big conspiracy. I have no idea how or why they would have such a conspiracy. What's the point of it? But there are people who don't accept it, and you can't tell them anything else. You see so many people dying of it, but they don't accept it. So someone who doesn't want to accept God, the supremacy of God, we don't waste our time preaching to them. It's actually an offense. It's an offense to try to preach to them. I have something, I'll read something. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 11th canto, 11.2.46. It's in a purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has strongly rejected those foolish persons who, under a plea of mercy and equal vision, perceive that a faithless person is also a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and who thus tries to thrust the Harinam or holy name of God upon such offensive people. So there are people, Bhakti Siddhanta, in his time, there were people like now, everything is equal, everybody's fine, everything is okay. What's good for me may not be good for somebody else. Everybody's a different individual. So people who don't believe in God, we shouldn't make a distinction between them. This is what some foolish people are thinking and saying. We shouldn't make a distinction between those who are out and outright atheists and those who are innocent. And we should just give the Harinam, give the holy name to everyone equally. Now that sounds good, but Bhakti Siddhanta didn't think it was. And of course, Srila Prabhupada didn't think it was either. Supreme Lord, who tried to thrust the holy name of God upon such offensive people. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta has stated, this is a quote, so that means this is exactly what he said. When childish people, he calls them childish, think themselves Mahabhagavatas and act in defiance of the Vaishnava spiritual master, Such behavior simply holds them back from receiving the mercy of the Vaishnava Guru. So this is a fact. It's an offense. If you try to do it because you think you're so great, if you're just a childish person who thinks you're a Bhagavad and you think you know better, then it holds you back from receiving the mercy of the Vaishnava Guru. This is word for word quote, of course, translated. Bewildered by false ego, these self-proclaimed devotees gradually become fit to be ignored by pure devotees on the intermediate platform and are cheated of the mercy that comes from the devotee's satisfaction. Thus, they become asadhu by constantly committing offenses against the devotees who preach the holy name of Krishna. Pure devotees, therefore, in all circumstances, display indifference to those who falsely imagine themselves to be Vishuddha Bhaktas, or pure devotees of the Lord. This indifference is an excellent manifestation of their mercy. And that's the end of the quote. And then it just says, in other words, who criticize the Vaishnava preachers on the second-class platform for discriminating between those who are fit to receive the Lord's mercy and those who are simply envious are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. So they're basically saying that this, first of all, let's explain what the second-class position is. The second-class platform is you see distinctions. You see God, you see the devotees, you see the innocent, and you see the demons. So you make these distinctions. Now the Mahabharata, the great devotees, they're on a higher platform. And they're on the first class platform is you see everyone as serving Krishna. But you don't preach. If you're on that platform, there's no preaching, because you don't go to preach to somebody if he's already fully engaged in serving Krishna. So even the Mahabharagatas, the great devotees who see like that, they come down to the second class position for preaching. So sometimes these great people who they consider themselves so great because they think you preach to everyone equally, they sometimes criticize the Vaishnava preachers, the ones on the second class platform, because they discriminate between who are fit to receive the Lord's mercy and those who are simply envious, are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. So they think we, or those devotees on the second class platform, are misunderstanding the mission of the Lord. Anyway, they're envious, and they just find fault with the devotees who are following Krishna and Guru. And Lord Krishna himself states in Bhagavad Gita 4:8, Paritanaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkitam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I invent myself millennium after millennium. So even such a great Vaishnava, Sukadeva Goswami, one of the 12 Mahajans in the universe, expressed his contempt for the evil Kamsa. But even before that, the verse I just quoted, Krishna's making distinctions. He's delivering the pious, he's annihilating the he's not treating everyone the same. Of course, he's treating them the same in one sense, because when he annihilates them, if he personally comes and kills them, then they benefit from that. But he doesn't treat them the same. He makes distinctions. So we shouldn't get to a platform thinking we're above that. We should see everyone equally. No, we shouldn't. We should make these distinctions. And some people are faithless, and if they're faithless, we don't preach to them. Now, we preach to everyone. When we first start preaching to them to try to sell them a book, we have to approach everyone. But when you get to the understanding that this person is just an out and out demon, then you don't even have to say goodbye. You can just turn and walk away and approach somebody else. You don't have to waste another second with them. So that's how we have to be. And if you think something else, then that's an offense, and you're going to lose the mercy of the pure devotee. So there were some other things I had. Well, this is just another verse from the Bhagavad Gita 4:40. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures. Now they're faithless, they're ignorant, they doubt the scriptures. Do not attain God consciousness, they fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So they're not happy here, and then certainly not going to be happy in the next life. If you doubt if you're a doubting soul, faithless persons, they don't have faith. And then in the 2 verses later, one who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless. This is in a purport though. One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless and is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded to him by the Lord. So we have some little independence. We can decide on what we want to follow, whether we want to follow Krishna or follow Maya. That's our independence. So in spite of such instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as the eternal, blissful, all-knowing personality of Godhead is certainly fool number one. Prabhupada, there's a lot of fool number ones. He mentions that several times in different places. Of fool number one.
Number one somewhere, huh?
Yeah, the fool. Yeah, I made it to the top. Actually, even that's not a fact. Like one devotee once approached Prabhupada, he was telling him, "I'm so fallen. I'm the most fallen. I'm the most fallen, Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "You're not the most anything." So you can't even be the most fallen. I'm fallen. I'm really fallen. I'm not the most. There are people more fallen than me. Don't get me wrong. But I'm fallen.
Competing to be fallen.
So those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So we have to be faithful. Being faithful means also being chaste. I see devotees, they go so many places. They hear from people. I mean, you can hear from people within ISKCON, but they go outside of ISKCON. I personally don't feel that that's very chaste, to Prabhupada. But that's my opinion. I don't see why we have to go anywhere else. Srila Prabhupada has certainly given us enough. He said even just the Bhagavad Gita, let that be the only scripture. That's all we have to read. Even just Bhagavad Gita, let alone Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Ishopanishad, some nectar devotion. Anyway, so many books Prabhupada has given us. But even out of all those books, he's saying all we really need is just Bhagavad Gita. So, I mean, why do we want to know all this? What I think we want to know this. We want to know this, at least what we should be wanting to know this is for our own purification and also to help purifying others. Like if we want to know for that reason. And we have everything we need. So why do we have to go somewhere else? Anyway, that's my opinion. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this world. I got just a couple of other verses that I did copy. Well, actually, just one. I already mentioned one without reading it. So the faith is the beginning. This is from Prabhupada is here in New York, April 27th, 1966. This is his beginning of preaching. And he says, so the faith is the beginning. You have to have faith. That's the beginning. The faithless cannot have any spiritual life. Faith is the beginning. Ado Shraddha. And this faith faithfulness, as much as it is intensified. So the more faith you have, faith and trust you have, you make your progress far. So it says, and this faithfulness, as much as it is intensified, you make your progress far. So this faith has to be intensified. The beginning is the faith. So first we have faith. We have some faith in trying to chant Hare Krishna. We have some faith. Maybe this will work. And then when our faith becomes intensified, then we can actually make a lot of progress. So this is the verse 60. Yeah. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere. First thing, austere. So austerities. We don't have to do such austerities like they did in other ages. We don't have to sit down and put in the summer and have fire all around us. I mean, not only we don't have to, if we did it, it's kind of like, why would we do that? And you don't have to stay submerged in the Connecticut River in the wintertime and, chant or whatever. These are not the austerities we have to perform. We have to perform certain austerities. Even the Ekadasi, normally on Ekadasi, you fast completely. And you even stay up all night chanting. Like we just had 5 hours, and some people had more than 5 hours of chanting. It was really nice. It was really wonderful. But so on Ekadasi, and you don't eat anything and you don't drink anything. That's the way what you're supposed to do. But our austerities are not so hard. All we have to do is we can still drink, we can still eat, just don't eat any grains, beans, or peas. And try to chant more, try to hear more. Chanting doesn't mean just the Hare Krishna mantra, just reading is chanting also. So we have to try to do that on Ekadasi. So it's a little austerity. And that's one of the harder days. Of course, the harder days may be like Janmashtami, you have to fast all day. And, it's an austerity. Fasting is certainly an austerity. So we have a few days you have to fast in a year. So that's some austerity. But the main austerity is just chanting Hare Krishna, chanting so many rounds every single day, getting up early in the morning, reading books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. These are the austerities that we have to perform. They're not that hard to do. It's certainly not physically hard, like staying in the freezing Connecticut River in the wintertime, or the Ganges if you happen to be in a holy place. But we don't have to do that kind of austerities. That's like torture. This is just something you just have to control your mind and make yourself do. It's not physically difficult in any way. Get up early in the morning. It's not hard to get up early in the morning if you go to bed early at night. That's the problem. And people stay up. So anyway, we have to perform austerities. So people who do not perform any austerities or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. So go back. Confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service. They're not doing any devotional service. They can't understand, and you shouldn't explain this most confidential knowledge, nor to one who is envious of me. So Prabhupada is explaining a little bit about envious in the purport, because Krishna claims to be the supreme, he's the highest person in existence. So somebody might get envious of that. I was just thinking, if I said I'm the greatest person in the world, not the whole universe, not all the universes, I'm not that great, but I'm the greatest person in the world. Now, if I said that, people, I think, would think this guy is really puffed up, but I don't think they'll be envious of me because I'm just saying it. They know it's not a fact. But why do you become envious of Krishna? Because it is a fact. So they actually become envious. In other words, if I was actually the greatest person or the ruler of this whole planet and everyone did what I said, people might be envious of me. But if I just say it, nobody's going to think anything of it. So people who become envious of Krishna must have some understanding that it's true. And they're envious. So persons are going to go over the purport quickly. Persons who have not undergone austerities of the religious process, who have never attempted devotional service in Krishna consciousness, who have not tended a pure devotee, not tended, I like that, not tended. In other words, tended means done something for him or her, who have not tended a pure devotee, and especially those who are conscious of Krishna only as a historical personality or who are envious of the greatness of Krishna, should not be told this most confidential part of knowledge. So that's in a whole group, all the people you don't tell it to. It is, however, sometimes found that even demoniac persons who are envious of Krishna, worshiping Krishna in a different way, take to the profession of explaining Bhagavad Gita in a different way to make business. But anyone who desires actually to understand Krishna must avoid such commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. So I don't think we have so much of that here in America. But there are people who just make a living out of it. But they don't even believe it. So actually the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not understandable to those who are sensuous. So to different degrees, we are all sensuous, and to different degrees, we can't understand fully Bhagavad Gita. Even if one is not sensuous, but is strictly following the disciplines enjoined in the Vedic scriptures, if he is not a devotee, he also cannot understand Krishna. So there are people who follow the Vedas, but they may be impersonalists or worshippers of some demigod, and perform austerities, and they still can't understand Krishna because they're not devotees of Krishna. And even when one poses himself as a devotee of Krishna, but is not engaged in Krishna conscious activities, he also cannot understand Krishna. So you might say, especially now during this COVID-19, that you're not doing any devotional activities, but hearing and chanting itself is devotional activities, the best devotional activities. So you don't have to be mopping the floor to be engaged in devotional activities, although mopping a floor, if you're doing it for Krishna, is also engaged in devotional activities. So our devotional activity can be just hearing and chanting. So as long as we're doing that, we're engaged in devotional activities. So there are many persons who envy Krishna because he has explained in Bhagavad Gita that he is the supreme and that nothing is above him or equal to him. There are many persons who are envious of Krishna. Such persons should not be told of Bhagavad Gita, for they cannot understand. So you have to understand that they can't understand. So don't tell them about it. There's no possibility of faithless persons understanding Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. No possibilities of faithless persons understanding Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. They cannot understand. So without understanding Krishna from the authority of a pure devotee, one should not try to comment upon Bhagavad Gita. So, well, I got plenty of time left. Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, I have a comment on a question actually first, because I didn't hear the whole class yesterday. But did you mention about Bhakti Siddhanta? Someone asked Bhakti Siddhanta, why did Lord Chaitanya reject that when he was saying, what's the highest? And he was going higher and higher and higher. Why did he reject, Sava Dharmam Prityaja Mamikam Sharanam Praja? Why did he reject that, verse? Did you mention that yesterday? Are you on, Ganapati? Go in.
Prabhuji, I didn't mention that yesterday.
You didn't?
No, I did not, Prabhu.
Okay, well then I'll mention it today because I got extra time. Anyway, I really like this. When I read this book just about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada, and when he was asked this question, I mean, he's so super smart, and he said, just like a son, it's Krishna saying, if you, I'll read the exact verse here. It's just one verse down, so I could find it pretty easily. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. He said, if you have a son and you have to, in order to get your son to do something, you have to say, if you do this, I'll do this for you. So he's saying here, if you do this, I'll deliver you from all sinful reactions. We shouldn't have to have that promise in order to do this. We should just do what Krishna wants. Whether or not we're going to get sinful reactions or not shouldn't be a consideration. So that's why it's not the highest, because Krishna had to put that in there in order for Arjuna to do it. Maybe not for Arjuna to do it, but for us to do it. So it's not the highest. If you have a son that if you do this, I'll buy you a car. If you do this, I'll buy you this, or I'll get you that. And then they do it. That's not as high as you just tell them to do it and they do it. So that's why it's not the highest religious principle. So abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. That part is fine. Okay, I'll do it. But what if I'm abandoning religious principles? That means I'm doing something against religious principles. You're telling me to do it, but it's against religious principles. Yudhisthira Maharaj had the same dilemma or problem when he was told by Krishna to say that Asvatthama was dead before he was dead, because they wouldn't be able to kill Dronacharya. But if his son was dead, then he wouldn't want to live. He didn't care to live. And Yudhisthira Maharaj never told a lie in his life. And when Krishna told him this, he hesitated. Because now I'm going to have to tell a lie. Because he hesitated, his chariot touched the ground. His chariot was always floating above the ground because he was so pure, so religious, never did anything wrong in his life. And now Krishna's really testing him. He's telling him to do something wrong. A lie is so bad. It says that the earth can tolerate these heavy mountains and everything, but it can't tolerate the the pressure or whatever of someone who tells a lie. A liar is so bad. So he didn't want to lie, and he hesitated, and his chariot touched the ground. So he shouldn't have hesitated. He should have just lied immediately. I mean, when I think of Bhima, I'm sure Bhima would have, but no one would have believed Bhima. But Yudhisthira, if he said it, it's true. So they had to kill an elephant named Asvatthama. And then he said, Asvatthama, the elephant, is dead. So that's the highest religious principle, to do it, not caring whether it's like the gopis. Krishna had a headache, and only the dust from the devotees' feet can cure his headache. And nobody wanted to give the dust from their feet to put on Krishna's head. But when the gopis found out, they immediately took the dust from his feet. They didn't say, okay, if I do this, am I going to get any reaction? They didn't care. And when they were told that, don't you know, this is such a sinful thing, So what? So what if we have to suffer? Krishna has a headache. That's the way they thought. So that's why they're the highest. Anyway, fill up a little space. I think 4 minutes. Any comments or questions? I have not looked at the next verse. I don't know how long it is. Okay, should I read the next verse or should we just end early and
So what is the highest verse, Prabhuji? Then? If this is
what?
not highest, if this verse is not highest, then which verse is the highest in the scriptures?
No, this was not the highest verse in the Bhagavad Gita. That's not what was discussed. This may be the highest verse in Bhagavad Gita, but they were talking about it's the love of the gopis. That's the highest. It's there's you must have read it. I read it a long time ago, but I read it more than once too. But well, even the last time I read it was a long time ago. But it was Ramananda Roy met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the bank of a river. I'm just thinking it's the Ganges, but I'm not positive. And Lord Chaitanya was asking him questions, and he would answer, and he would tell him, "No, it's more than that. More, what's higher? What's greater?" Until he got to the gopis, and then he was satisfied. But then, even amongst the gopis, what love is for Krishna is even greater than that, and it's the love of Radha. That was the greatest. So even a son who has to be bribed a little bit, it's still good, not a bad son, especially in Kali Yuga. What can you do?
I think Ramanandre, he quoted a verse from Bhagavatam, and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he was satisfied that yes, this is the highest verse. I forgot which verse it was.
I don't know. Anybody on here that knows? Where's Omeo? He's the old Chaitanya guy.
I vaguely remember the translation. It was something like to hear the pastimes of Krishna always without any personal motivation, something like that. That is how the translation goes. It's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam.
No, he got to a point where he was very satisfied, yes, but he could still go higher. Like that's fine, yes. But he wanted to hear about the love for Radha and for Krishna. That's the highest.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, that's what I remember too. I don't remember the verse, but I think Ramananda did mention some verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and Mahaprabhu said, he was keep saying, "Iha bajjo, age barovar." Bajjo means external. This is external. Go ahead. And Ramananda Rai was astonished when he mentioned the last verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He's saying, "Oh, what is this Shashanasi talking about? What can be higher than that?" And then Mahaprabhu was keep pushing him,
right?
And yeah, and that's how. And finally,
right.
He said, Radharani's Bhav is the highest.
Right, but even that verse, probably it was the verse in the Bhagavatam. It wasn't external anymore. It wasn't external. It was spiritual. But now, even that you're completely on the spiritual, you can still go higher.
Yes, true. That's
yeah.
true.
So when he was quoting the verses, he sab bhaiya aage kaha ar, so like that he was pushing. But then after he quoted that verse, then Mahaprabhu said, "Ahi hai aage kaha ar." This is it, but go deeper. Like tell me more about this verse. Something like that. This conversation goes.
Right, true. That's what exactly. I'm sorry, I misquoted you.
Right, but that's right. But the others were external. You might think, how can it be external? Because it's still something to do with material. Very good. I'm glad somebody knows some things.
Prabhu, you mentioned so sweet pastime about gopis, and there is this similar pastime. Govindo Prabhu, he was the I mean, everybody is servant of Lord Chaitanya now, but he was like, like really the servant. He was like serving him 24/7.
Right.
So one day Mahaprabhu, like, I think it was his daily routine. After lunch, having lunch prasadam, he was taking a, would you like to mention the first time? I think
Well, I'm
it will
pretty
sound
sure
sweeter.
it's the one that he laid down after he ate and he was blocking the doorway.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Would you like to describe for us? It will sound much sweeter if we hear from your mouth.
Well, there was 2 times. One time he walked, he stepped over Lord Chaitanya. Now to step over even just a person, the only thing you're allowed to step over a dead body. But if it's a live body, even a person, not even a Vaishnava, but especially a Vaishnava, and what can you say about Lord Chaitanya? He's not only a Vaishnava, he's the Supreme Lord. But Govinda stepped over him, and then what did he do? Go back? How did he do? There was 2 parts to it. But one is he stepped over him, and then later Lord Chaitanya, but then he didn't go over him again, because I think he had prashadam maybe in the room where he was going to eat, but he didn't eat. He stepped over him because he was getting something to do service for Lord Chaitanya. But then if he was going to eat prashadam or something for himself, he had to step over him again, but he didn't do that. So he only stepped over him once, because even though it was sinful, he was willing to do that because he had to do this for Lord Chaitanya. So to do something for Lord Chaitanya. Now, maybe you can add in more of the details, because I don't remember.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna, Pyari Prabhuji. Yeah, it is the same. I mean, when he has to go inside to massage Lord Chaitanya, so he stepped over because it was a service. But when he has to take his prasadam, because when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to get asleep after he massages, then he used to go
Right.
and have his lunch. So he didn't have that.
Right. I got it all right. I just forgot it was the massage was the service. I knew it was service, but it was the massage, right?
Yes, you got it right, Prabhuji.
Even though I don't remember anything anymore, I still remember some things.
So Prabhu, there is like
Prabhu.
No, Prabhu,
there is
you
a
remember
remember
last
everything.
part too.
everything.
Wait.
There is an end part to it. So easily Mahaprabhu used to like take a nap for like 20 minutes, half an hour. But that day he was like full of fatigue. Again, this is also a part of the pastime. So he was sleeping for like 2 hours, I guess. So and then he went. Govinda Prabhu stepped over Lord Chaitanya because he was blocking the door. He went inside the room
Some
to
other
like
rules and regulations should be treated.
to
Assistance or servant.
Somebody's talking. If you can mute yourself, other than Omeo, who's talking to everybody.
to massage Lord Chaitanya's body, and then like it was, as you mentioned, it was time for him to take prasadam, but he did not go over. Then 2 hours later, Lord Chaitanya woke up, and then when he saw Govinda Prabhu, he was very like strange and angry. He said, Govinda, what happened? What are you doing here? Why didn't you take your prasadam? Then Govinda Prabhu said, I couldn't go outside because you were blocking the doorway. I had to step over. Then Mahaprabhu said, then how did you get inside? Then he said, well, I can for your pleasure I can commit like mountains of sin, but for my own pleasure I am not willing to do even a little bit. He said something very, very sweet that reminded me of the gopis pastime.
Right. Yeah, that's really nice pastime. Oh, glad you're on. Anyone else? Padmalochini, did you have anything else to say?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, as Prabhuji mentioned, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have asked him and he became angry, but I think he just kept silent and he just thought in his mind that because doing your service, he was thinking in his mind. He did not reveal that to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But I think it has been mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done this pastime to show the world, like how the
I
devotees
think he
take to
did
serve.
say it. I think he did say it to Lord
I
Chaitanya.
remember that he was thinking in his mind itself.
Well,
That's
somebody
what.
look it up. It shouldn't take that long.
Yes, it's in the Antolila. It should be very quick to find out. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or questions that I could or cannot answer?
So I must have been dozing off a little bit. All this came about to say this is higher than what you were saying, which verse?
Well, I think we started talking about Lord Chaitanya sleeping and then you fell asleep.
I've been sleeping late and getting up early, like you said.
What verse?
Yeah, you said something. This all came about that this is higher than what? I think was it the verse?
Because there's the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Savadamam Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja, Tvam Savapapebhyo Mokshayisyami Masuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, and I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So Bhakti Siddhanta said, someone asked him, why did the Lord Chaitanya reject that as the highest, or as transcendental at least, that it is completely a spiritual platform. And he said, because Krishna had to say, I'll protect you from all sinful reactions, do not fear. So therefore, it's like a son. If your son does something for you, but you have to promise him something in order for him to do it, that's not a very good son. The son should just do it. So the devotee should do whatever Krishna wants, whether there's a sinful reaction or not. So we just gave that example of Govinda, who stepped over Lord Chaitanya to massage him, but for himself, he wouldn't step over him so that he can eat. He can go get prashadam.
Thank you. Now it's clear.
Okay.
So Prabhuji, it has been mentioned in 1095 that I'll just read. Govinda mentally replied, my duty is to serve even if I have to commit offenses or go to hell. It's
Yeah,
1095.
so he said it.
No, but mentally replied, it says.
He said mentally?
He mentally replied. Yeah, Prabhuji, I posted that link in the chat.
Boy, how do you do this stuff so fast?
You're getting old, Pyari.
No, I know. I'm not saying it was that way, but when I read it, I guess I skipped the mentally part.
It does say mentally. But I'm sure that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood, even if he replied mentally.
Prabhupada understood everything mentally. Anybody?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and devotees felt amazed. How did he know what was in my mind?
One quick question here. So here this verse says where the qualifications are mentioned that this knowledge should not be given to these persons, and Krishna gives like a long list of qualities. So one of the things that he mentions is one who is not devoted, one who is not a devotee, this knowledge should not be given to that person. But he also says that one who hears this knowledge will become a devotee. So then should we really give knowledge or not? you know what I'm trying to say, right? How will people become devotees if we don't give this knowledge to people?
Well, I think I did mention that you have to try to give this message, this knowledge to everyone. And when you find out a person is envious, or a person is atheistic, or a person is offensive and anything you're saying about it, then you don't tell them anymore. I think with the innocent person, you have to tell him he's not a devotee, but he doesn't know. He never even heard of what a devotee is. So then you have to explain it to him. I mean, it's kind of a little common sense. And then you have to see if he accepts it or not. So he may not be engaged in devotional service. But he may be also just hearing a little about Krishna. That's devotional service too. Or like with, now that we have Omeo on, with Lord Chaitanya sat down with, oh man, don't tell me, Prakasananda Saraswati, when he sat down and where they washed everyone's feet, he sat down there, Lord Chaitanya Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came out and offered his hand to help Lord Chaitanya up from there. And by doing that, he engaged in a Gyata Sukriti, unknowing devotional service, and he benefited. So sometimes, or people just give a donation, they don't want a book, that's devotional service. I mean, if somebody doesn't know anything about devotional service and you present to them about devotional service, then you have to judge by their reaction, whether you go any further or not. You know, if they want to hear, then you keep telling them. But if they don't want to hear, then you stop. Anyway, that's,
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Prabhu. Thank you.
how to get back out of this now. I don't know how to do anything on my, well, this computer. I'm afraid if I'm in my, Chaitanya Charitamrita because I clicked on that link and I don't know how to get back. Anyway, it's after 8. Someone else can have to shut everyone down. Anyone have any other comments or questions?
Did you hear anything about the surgery, Pyari?
Yes. I wish Jiva, oh, she is here. She's here sneaking behind me quietly, scaring me. Yes, we're going to read what.
She looks really scary, huh? Scaring you.
Jiva, how do I get back out of this? Do I just? Well, we better read it first, and then just in case we do the wrong thing. Oh, press that. Okay, let me try that. Wow, it worked. Okay, so you want to read it?
Okay, this was at 4:25 p.m. At 4:25 p.m., Ananda Garanga said that the nurse just came out to inform that the doctor is now finishing up, closing the incision. Surgery went well, and Krishangi is doing well. They ended up fusing C1 with C2. Can I say that?
And occipital, whatever that is.
Occipital, instead of just C2. It will take some time for them to finish, and then Krishangi will take some more time to regain consciousness. Yours, Pyari Prabhu's, and other devotees' prayers help make surgery successful. Thank you very much.
So it worked.
So that's very good news. Very good news.
Yeah, it was.
To translate that for you, what it means is they fused the top 2 bones of her neck basically to what is touching her skull almost.
Yeah.
The top 2 bones. They were only going to do 1, but they did 2.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
They must have their reasons why they did 2.
Yeah. I was moving too.
Anyway, it was really good. And for those who participated in this program, first, I mean, I want to thank everyone for doing this for Krishangi, but also it was really ecstatic. I mean, I was on for pretty much 5 hours. I think it was 5 hours. I just had to go away for a little bit. And then I had to leave at the very end, and then they still chanted. How long did anybody know what time they chanted to?
We chanted till at least 4 o'clock. Most of us were really too ecstatic to drop off, except our husbands were getting impatient.
We closed at 5, Prabhu. 5, we closed.
Huh?
5 o'clock they closed.
Up to 5.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I stayed till 4 because my husband said, "What is this? You're doing this all day." So I had to get off, and
Wow, that's really good. So
I
that was,
didn't want to. Yeah, it was so nice. Everybody was
yeah.
reading so much
I
Krishna
think
Katha.
we should do that more often, where we each have, instead of just somebody giving a class, we can have 5 hours of hearing and chanting. We do some reading, do some japa, do some chanting, different bhajans.
It was a nice variety.
Yeah, it was really nice. And everybody got to do something.
And it was really nice also when she did the.
When we have a Thanksgiving coming, Thanksgiving Day we should do.
Well, that's a good idea. Thanksgiving.
Give thanks by
Yeah.
chanting.
Yeah. What were you saying, Jiva?
Oh, that she even did a round of the Uber Nishringa, the Gopi, when she did that.
Oh, yeah, that 108
Yeah,
times.
108 times.
That was really nice. We chanted this Ugra Nashringa mantra 108 times. That was really nice. At first, I didn't learn it. I didn't know it, but she chanted it fast. So, but then you get to figure it out after hearing it about 10, 15 times. It was really nice.
Even the children participated and did so
That
beautifully.
one, I forget who it was. Advika. She chanted the bhajan so nice.
Beautifully, yes.
Really, really nice.
And you missed the father-daughter duo. That was really nice too.
Yeah, I missed that.
Raga Singh.
Anyway, it was really nice. So let's set something up. Ganapati Govind, you still on?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm here.
For Thanksgiving Day.
Yes, Prabhu, we'll plan something, Prabhu, for Thanksgiving Day.
We don't
It's a
have
good
to have
idea.
anything written up. We just tell everybody there's a program from such and such to such and such. Join for whatever you like, as long as you can. It's kind of like a 24-hour kirtan, except it's not 24 hours and it's not exactly a regular kirtan.
Right.
But
Yes, I actually like that idea.
yeah, it was
It
really
would
nice.
be good. I wish I was there for the other one. I didn't know about it. It would be good.
Yeah, I didn't find out about it until too late either.
No, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so let's do it. Send it out tomorrow to the core group, or even if people are online here that aren't on the core group. So what time should we start? We can tell everybody now.
Prabhu, I have Mataji with me. I have Amrita Keli Mataji with me. She can give us the live updates.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Pyari Prabhu.
Hare Bo.
She's still under anesthesia. She wakes up her eyes once in a while. Then she gets a little panicky because there are too many wires and yeah, she's gonna be sore for next few days. The neurosurgeons and the pediatric team, they said that we have to manage the pain for the next few days. But it was successful. So just trying not to get emotional.
Such an exhausting day, Amrita Keli. We expect that,
It would be unusual if you weren't emotional. She's your baby.
Yeah, like only one parent is allowed, but she was friends with many nurses on the floor, so they made an exception. They're going to allow Anand Gauranga Prabhu till midnight. She gets up and then when she can't see one of us, she gets a little panicky. So she has a little like a drain pipe where the incision was to collect if there's any pus or drainage or blood from that area.
Do you know why originally they were gonna just do one bone or something and then they did two?
So the doctor told me, Pyari Prabhu, he came to the room and he told me they put a clamp on her C1 and C2 bones.
Yeah.
And they tried moving her neck, and with the metal fusion, the bone slipped out of the correct position and twisted